The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Robert.
Mark.
Robert.
Mark.
Robert.
Mark.
Donkey?
I'll get to you. Has the Minions language evolved?
A little bit.
At least the first movie, because I don't remember them doing a mixture of different European romance languages the way this one does it. Like, it feels like from Despicable Me through all the way through that series, through Minions, and then Minions: The Rise of Gru, there seemed to be like almost like a Pig Latin thing going on. But I absolutely heard them say "aspetta" at least once, and it made me think of my dear old departed Nana, my Italian Nana, who taught me farming and about tomatoes and the Bible, and
insisted that the mafia wasn't a real thing.
Insisted the mafia wasn't real, exactly. Yes, as it's not, because my grandmother said so. But my point is, like, you have more of an ear for this and memory for this sort of thing than I do. The Minions language has changed from film to film, hasn't it?
Not much since Despicable Me 2. In the first one, it's a little bit more just kind of on the gibberish side.
Yeah, it's a lot of like I said, Pig Latin. Like
By the time we get to 2, there's a lot more of the Minions in 2. So 2, they kind of refine a lot of what goes on there. Like, you can find interviews with the voice actors and the writers for the Minions. Because there's primarily one voice actor for the Minions, and he's like, yeah, it's a weird mixture of a little bit of Italian, a lot of Portuguese, a little bit of there's like 3 or 4 languages that he just kind of like, okay, so when we talk about this thing, I use this language. When we talk about this thing, I use this language.
Right, so there is
this is its own thing.
There is some rhyme to the rhythm then, because and if I go back and listen to it, I'll probably hear it, because at this point I probably just have forgotten it, and I'm watching it now, and I'm like I said, I'm watching it on Sunday, and I'm thinking to myself like, I'm hearing a lot of actual language here and not gibberish. Go ahead, Alexis.
Well, I actually got to hear from the director that it's a playful rhythmic blend of gibberish and real words borrowed from English, Spanish, French, Italian, Filipino, and Korean.
Yeah.
And there is actually a handful of catchphrases that they do have in there. There's a handful of like, yeah, this is the way they would say hello. It's bello. Goodbye is pupe. We love you is tulalilu, ti amo. I am hungry is me want banana.
6 or 7 films into this, I'm wondering if at one point they really did institutionalize the language and say, this is how this is this is the language. This is how it's going to be in every film. The language doesn't change. If this means this in this movie, it's going to mean the same thing 2 movies from now.
I think again, like when they got the first one, they felt like, I don't want to say throwing stuff at the wall, because even then, like, there's rhythm to it. It's internally consistent.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like Despicable Me 1 is, if that's the only one you're making, you want to make the Minions what they are. When you make a sequel, it's a big deal, and you make a sequel, at that point, it's like, okay, people love the Minions. Of course they do. They're almost designed to be that way. What do we do to... we can't have this be throw crap at the wall every time with what the Minions are saying. So I feel like that's the time when they would have, like, maybe not drilled into every little thing about it, but established like the linguistic Bible for the Minions language.
Well, I was thinking of like something like Klingon.
Yeah.
At some point they have to formalize this language, or you break immersion. And I know I've been using that phrase a lot lately because it's become an important thing to point out as we lose one franchise after another for a variety of reasons. It's just something I was thinking about, and I figured, why start the show properly when I can just go right into a talking point?
I kind of doubt that we're ever going to get, a fully formalized language the same way that, Tolkien Elvish and Dwarvish and Orcish or Klingon are, where like linguistic people have gone through and actually mapped out a whole language. I don't think we may ever get that.
Oh, Robert, I've already found the Minionese translator, and it also offers Na'vi, Klingon, High Valyrian, Dothraki, Elvish, and ChatGPT speak.
If you can translate ChatGPT into something loosely relatable, that will be a minor miracle. Point being, like, I feel like what they got in the second one.
Hang on. If I didn't think higher learning were already like falling apart, and but in 10 years from now, like most of the colleges will be gone, and in 50 years, no colleges will exist except a handful to teach very specific things. If we had kept going on the track we had been on, where colleges are everywhere, they're $1 million and everyone goes, but they take nonsense classes, there was absolutely would have been a Minions class, a Minions language class that you could have taken right up there with Klingon and French.
Almost certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Now you may talk, Robert.
I was just going to say, I think by the time we got to the second one, they may not have had the whole thing, but what they have is like the mathematical equation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like at this point, here's the different languages we're using. Here, don't go back on anything we've done previously, but here's sort of the formula for this, and then we build from here. So instead of like Tolkien reconstructing building languages out of first principles, this is a bit more building where we are. But yeah, it's the Minions and their success is a testament to the ability of human communication to be able to understand something that you cannot decipher the words of without too much difficulty.
So tonight on Damn You Hollywood, we review Minions and Monsters, the latest entry in Illumination's billion-dollar franchise and the 7th film overall in the Despicable Me series. Directed by Pierre Coffin and written by Coffin and Brian Lynch, the film features the familiar Minions alongside a voice cast that includes Trey Parker, Allison Janney, Christoph Waltz, Jesse Eisenberg, Jeff Bridges, Zoey Deutch, Bobby Moynihan, and Phil LaMarr. Set in 1927, more than 4 decades before the events of the first Minions film, the story follows Kevin, Stuart, Bob, and the gang as they head to old Hollywood with dreams of making their own monster movie. Since the first Minions surprised us with an unexpectedly thoughtful story about purpose, belonging, and finding something larger than oneself to serve, the Rise of Gru shifted towards a lighter coming-of-age adventure. The question becomes whether this latest prequel recaptures the philosophical weight of the original or settles back into slapstick and spectacle. All right, Alexis, since you weren't on the first 2 reviews, you want to give me your... Don't get into Despicable Me, because that's a whole other conversation. Just give me your quick and dirty on Minions and Minions 2, The Rise of Gru, Electric Boogaloo.
It just fascinates me that, by all accounts, this is a franchise that should have died and stayed dead and then possibly been dug back up, cloned, and then we could kill all of the clones, just because on paper, this should have been the most annoying dreck on the planet.
The most success is currently the most successful animated franchise in the world.
I know, and this is why I don't gamble, because I never would have bet money on this succeeding. This is why I stay off of Kelshi, okay?
It's amazing what thoughtful application of silliness can accomplish instead of whatever's going on in other places.
It's also amazing what the absence of studio interference does. I mean, I think the people making these Illumination more or less got out of the way and was just like, keep making us hits, baby. And not really questioning what it was they were doing. Go ahead, Alexis.
And enjoying all the merchandise, all the Minions merchandise.
So what did you think of the first 2 movies?
I actually never saw The Rise of Gru. Although everyone says it was fantastic, but I never just got around to seeing it. The first Minions movie I enjoyed, kind of blown away by Sandra Bullock doing slapstick. It was like, that's actually pretty funny. I never really would have thought she was an actress who could push, that level in voice acting like that. But I enjoyed it. Like I said, these are movies that you sit and you watch and it's like, I should hate this. Why am I not hating this? Why am I laughing at this? Why am I enjoying this? But you do.
Let me ask you a question. You haven't seen the second one. You seem to barely acknowledge the first one is good. Why are you here tonight?
Because as you pointed out, I have been dealing with you guys being angry and depressed and just overall fed up with the Hollywood algorithm for the last few weeks.
Years.
And I am still recovering from your rants over Toy Story 5. And it's like, oh my God, positivity. They are actually going to be positive about something. And I needed to be here to bask in that.
I feel like Alexis just accidentally alluded to the fact this is a very toxic relationship. She's like, I can't just stay away. I have to be here. But at least tonight you won't beat me because the meatloaf's cold. All right.
This is Mark. This is more like a plant contorting itself around another plant to get sunlight.
Like, it would have been just as easy to not be on the show, but okay, sure. All right. Looking back at the first two Minions films, what stands out is not simply that they are funny, but they reveal why Illumination has become one of Hollywood's most reliable animation studios. The original Minions succeeds because beneath the slapstick is an unexpectedly profound question: what gives life purpose? The Minions are not merely searching for a villain to serve; they are searching for an organizing principle that gives their existence meaning. That journey can be read through religion, psychology, or even evolutionary biology, but it ultimately becomes a story about belonging, hierarchy, and civilization. The Rise of Gru largely abandons that philosophical weight in favor of a more conventional coming-of-age adventure, yet it still demonstrates Illumination's remarkable instinct for mythic storytelling, visual clarity, impeccable comic timing, and universal accessibility. Together, the film suggests that audiences are responding to something critics often overlook. These stories understand that people naturally seek purpose, competent leadership, and connection to something larger than themselves. The Minions may be absurd, but the instincts they embody are deeply human. Robert, that's a synthesis of our previous two podcasts concerning the Minions. Did you want to add anything to it and then jump into the plot synopsis?
No, that's about the size of it. I think there's a little bit of the context around too that kind of gets lost in translation when it has to go from condensing our discussion into written form into then being condensed to fit into, like, I know why you do what you do. And we talked about it, we talked about too, like it isn't quite as thematically rich as one, but it's not quite just, like, for want of a better expression, it's not quite just Looney Tunes. It mostly suffers because the first one, again, is shockingly rich.
It definitely follows in the pattern of a first movie establishing something profound and interesting and thematically rich, and then the second one not totally knowing what worked with the first one, it just doing what people think is what people think they like about it. And I think that was one of my big criticisms of the second one was I wish we had gotten more of what you and I spent an hour talking about in the first movie, and this one kind of just plays the hits. But it was successful enough that you and I still didn't hate it. I remember that review. That was 2022. It was in the middle of me having a bad time and all of that. But I remember much like this review, like, despite me not having a good time, I enjoyed the movie and we had a good conversation about it. Anything else before we move on?
No, just to kind of give away some of my review, I think this one does a good job of like splitting the difference between 1 and 2. If we're talking, like, it's not quite as purely slapstick as 2. It's not quite as thematically resonant as 1, but it also does have more to say than I think 2 did. So
I would totally agree with that. By the way, since you started pointing out that Minions is modern Looney Tunes, I kind of watched it with that frame, and I couldn't stop laughing because all I could think about was this is a Looney Tunes short that, it's like watching an extended Bugs Bunny cartoon. And that, for whatever reason, unlocked the part of my brain that made this that much more funnier. All right, so with that said,
I'm glad I could find the right combination of words to
unlock
unlock bits of understanding in your mind.
Yeah. All right, so let's hit it with that plot synopsis, baby.
So Minions and Monsters has a very a nested narrative structure. We open with a tour group going through one of the museums in Hollywood, including George Lucas being locked in a glass case. The biggest laugh this movie got out of me. I enjoyed it tremendously, but in the end credits, when it said George Lucas as George Lucas, I just about died.
I do love that they actually got him in to voice himself. Like, can I at least have my phone? You'll just call for help.
Yeah, that was fun. So we open with, again, a tour group coming through a Hollywood museum, and in the museum we find a statue to James and Henry, two of the Minions. And the people go, who are they? And Allison Janney, who is doing our, docent bit, says, "You've never heard about James and Henry? Well, we know who the Minions are, but why these two? Okay, tour is paused. Everybody come over here and sit down. It's story time." And this is where the bulk of our narrative comes from, is her story of these two. And we relay that, the Minions have been around forever, and this particular tribe of Minions was led by a guy named Dick, which...
little on the nose.
The fact that someone later refers to him as Richard.
And he goes, "No, Dick."
Anyway, they're looking for a master, as all Minions do. They find a Cyclops, and they make it step on Legos, which they get ejected. But amongst this particular tribe of Minions, we have James and Henry. James is an aspiring storyteller. He draws and he storyboards, and he has big dreams. And Henry is his little facilitator, and wants to see him succeed, and is happy to be in the stories he tells. This is the classic director-actor pairing, basically, here. And while they are searching for someone to serve, they stumble across what is revealed to be a movie set, where they see someone engaged in thievery, and they go, "Hey, there's our next boss," and they all chase after him, and they ruin the shot. They drive a train through the middle of downtown Los Angeles. Before that, very important before that, after the Cyclops, they go with an old wizard, this old Romani Russian wizard who has the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, or something similar to that. And the Minions discover that it works, so they summon a few things. One of them kills the wizard, but they take the book. Ed shows up, Ed Wood, the one who can't speak, but never stops rolling the camera. This movie is filled with love letters and Easter eggs about Hollywood. I'm never going to get through all of them. So
I was going to say, during the train chase scene, all I could think was like, "Oh, great way to introduce Buster Keaton to kids."
Yep, there's one for Charlie Chaplin a little bit after that. There's so many. Anyway, but they get his spell book, which can summon things. And they have this. It comes up later. That's why it's relevant. But they have it. That's important. So they wind up going, again, they drive a train to the middle of Los Angeles. They encounter Christoph Waltz as a film director. And because they ruined his shot, some of his film, his film now contains footage of the Minions. And as he has to show dailies to the Warner Brothers, the Bright Brothers, they see the Minions and go, "This is great. This is so much better than that crap you were making." And he goes, "Oh, yes, clearly I intended this. Let me go get them so we can do more of these." So he drives around, he finds them.
I was going to say, there was pretty much a copy of what Universal said. Put them in everything.
A little bit. So he finds the Minions, and the Minions become a big success in the silent picture era. They're in many things. There's many movies. A great time is being had by all. James is working his way up to be his own director. And then, as with so many things in Hollywood around this time, everything was upended with the talkies.
I elbowed Jonas hard. I was like, as soon as they were like, we're going to have sound in the movies, I'm like, this killed so many careers.
I anyone else hear Nora Desmond? It's like, and then they had the eyes of the world, and then they had to have the mouths of the world, or something like. I should know that line better. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, yeah, the talkies, first of all, was several studio heads resisted using that technology because, and I quote, who would want to hear an actor talk? A line we should bring back more often. Yeah, and famously, Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces, had just no voice for film or radio. And his last couple of movies are actually talkies. And inevitably, they find reasons for his character to be mute. Like,
what kills me is the next part of this is every time they do a couple of sequences with, I'm tagging in for this part of the plot stuff, and I'll give it back to you. They show the minions in different movies, and then when they go to talk, they talk in their language, and so they can't get the lines right because they're speaking in minionese, and so their career is now over because they can't use them anymore. And this is the joke about how the talkies killed a lot of the silent movie actors because a lot of the silent movie actors couldn't do the lines for whatever the reasons were. Either their voice wasn't good or they could act with their body and their faces, but they had a hard time delivering dialogue, which, you know, if you think about it, kids, if at that point Hollywood wasn't asking anyone to deliver dialogue, then no one develops that skill. Then suddenly everyone has to have it. And not everyone does, and it was a really interesting time in Hollywood. And a movie that captures this really well is Babylon. If you can get past the elephant shit, and and the 2-hour party, there's a really great bit where they are showing you the effect of delivering dialogue in movies in an era where it was brand new and exciting. So. Go ahead, Robert.
It used to be if you wanted to verbalize dialogue, you were on the stage, not on the screen.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you have to be able to do both.
and not everyone could.
Yeah. So the minions are now out of work.
Sorry.
They go hole up in some British row houses, which made me laugh when I saw them. But James has come up with an idea for his own movie, and he really wants to do this, but now they're out of work. They're out of favor. So they go talk with Christoph Waltz again, this director, who's like, he tells them, look, I like your concept, but a concept isn't a movie. You know what you're doing, put in the work, and you'll get there, and I'm going to help you on your way. Gives them a camera so they can start shooting.
That magically never runs out of stock footage.
Of course not. Like a 6-shooter never has to be reloaded. Like
Sure.
I'm willing to go along with this one.
Yeah.
So James's big idea is to have a big monster movie. And in fairness, this is around the time King Kong would have been in development and come out, and the big spectacle monster flick is starting to be a thing. And like, well, we need a monster. And Ed shows up and he's like, hey, I got a book that lets you summon real monsters. This will be great. So he summons Cthulhu, but it's a short little squishy plushy-headed thing that goes by the name of Goomy.
Every
With an
kid should
official
have
name-
a squishy head Cthulhu toy.
Yeah. Whose official name is several things long and ends with the Deceiver. As though there's any question about where this is going. And Goomy tells them, look, a lot of us monsters just got a bad rap. I know a couple of guys. They'll be great for your movie. No, they won't break anything. They're misunderstood. So by this point, James, this is moderately important. James and Henry and Ed are trying to make this movie. The others, led by Dick, have resumed looking for the big boss. Their dalliance with Hollywood is over. They need something to serve, and they discover the only time Jesse Eisenberg has been remotely interesting is him as a robot They go to the first sci-fi convention. And they are now trying to help Jesse Eisenberg, who is a robot from outer space, here to determine whether or not the Earth is worth conquering.
Of course,
So
everyone is convinced it's just a dude in a costume.
They're messing around with him while the others are doing the movie thing. So that the minions have now divided a little bit. But we sail out to the island where we find a couple of other monsters that have been held in stasis. They are woken up. And the monsters then go to Gumi like, okay, so we're going to destroy everything, right? Because we're monsters. This is what we do. And Gumi goes, look, we can go on a bit of a rampage right now. It'll be fun, but it's going to fail. Like you wouldn't want to believe what's going on out there. Like you've been locked in ice since the medieval, like the primeval world. They got guns and shit. Like, when we do this, we're going to have to actually do this. So I need you two, and we're going to release Irene. And they go, yeah, that'll work. So Gumi then sells James on the big thing we're going to do is we're going to get this big monster out. These two are going to be nice, but you need a big monster. Like these two, no, they're not that. So they go back to Hollywood, and they summon Irene, which is this giant, all-consuming blob full of eyes. It is the blob. It is the blob, and it shows up, and Gumi's treachery is revealed. Irene starts eating everything. Big action set piece. But then Jesse Eisenberg, as a robot, takes off in his spaceship because he's not just a dude in a costume. There's a little bit of it. Early on, it's never quite as like you think it's a guy in a costume, but he insists that he's a robot, and it could go either way, but it's funnier if it goes the way of him being a robot. So he is the robot. He has taken all of the minions that were with him up to his big spaceship, and they all come down in little UFOs that have the technology necessary to overcome Irene. They kill Irene. They send the other three back into the dead halls of Relia, where Cthulhu lies dreaming. And the minions have saved the day. They've created a great movie. We then cut back to the group in the wanted to say theater, but that's not right. They're in the museum.
Yeah.
Hang on. We go to the people in the museum who are, yay, James and Henry are great. And then we pull back to reveal that this is all a soundstage, and we've just been watching the actual creation of the movie that James has been pitching the entire time. And again, this entire movie is a love letter to cinema in a way that a lot of other stuff has tried to be recently. And again, that's kind of where. Then we actually close with a bunch of short antics of the minions with the spell book. This is how Gru's terrible monstrosity of a dog is created.
That made me laugh so hard.
I laughed at that. They resummon a fluffy bunny destroyer from earlier, but now with Agnes. And because Agnes is here, the thing just is like, hey, yes, I am fluffy. And they all have a good time. They put Gru's face on a bunch of different animals, including a penguin, which is almost indistinguishable from the real Gru. So we go through some shenanigans at the end, and lobster.
All right, Alexis, go ahead and do your thing. I'll be right back.
I think you're onto something talking about how the minions are very similar to the Looney Tunes because it is simplicity in the comedy. There aren't any current trends, or it's like trying to play to what's hip or what's now with the minions. It is simplicity in facial body reactions and slapstick. And everyone is going to react to that. You have a scene where the two side monsters are chasing Henry, and it suddenly turns into a sped up slapstick sequence to the William Tell overture, and I was laughing hysterically through that whole thing.
That was great.
It's like it's just silliness. There is that is this movie in a nutshell. It is just pure silliness, and it knows it. The animation, as always from Illumination, is great. I I was very impressed with Irene. You know, getting a jelly-like texture is not easy in 3D animation, especially with all those eyes covering it, looking in a million different directions. It's very easy for it to clip and look fake, but they really did a good job with that. I don't think any of the voice actors were trying that hard, but I don't think they had to. I mean, this is probably Christoph Waltz's easiest paycheck he's ever gotten in his life. But
I
you
don't
know
know.
what?
He was able to phone in a lot of the stuff he did for Disney.
True, but again, it's just like he's just playing. He's good. And there's nothing really like stand out about it, but it's like it's just Christoph Waltz being Christoph Waltz, and it's fun.
The one time he gets to have some real fun with the line delivery is when the minions are being escorted out and he's saying goodbye to all of them fondly, and then
Different languages. And I think that's what makes the Minions movies last so long is that they're not trying to be something they're not. This isn't a movie that has a grand message or is trying to just change the way we look at animation. It is fun silliness. It is a goofball kind of event. And they know it, and they know how to package it like that. They're not trying to be something they're not. This is an hour and a half of just sitting back laughing. Again, like I mentioned, I loved all the little love letters and background jokes to classic cinema. Again, the Buster Keaton thing actually, when he steals the ladder and it turns out there's Keaton hanging off of the clock. God, that killed me. And yeah, Jesse Eisenberg's door just kind of blew me away. I was just like, wait, what? That was, I did not see that coming, but it was legit funny.
Jesse Eisenberg is much like Mark Zuckerberg, requires a lot of work to seem charming and human. And in this case, turning him into a literal robot seems to have done the job.
Is there anything else, Alexis?
Again, you know, this is just for fun. And if you got kids, the kids are obviously going to enjoy this. This isn't the groundbreaking animated film of the year, but it's fun. It is just pure silliness.
What I like about my resistance to the Minions years ago was, as presented in the Despicable Me movies, it was a lot of like dick and fart jokes. It was a lot of very physical comedy, a lot of boorish humor. And I was resistant to it then as I am now. The thing of it is that's not really the Minions. And with Minions, the first movie from 2015, and then the Rise of Gru, what I had noticed was, yes, there's some of that. There's some of, you know, boobies, you know, like really silly humor. But this movie especially, the humor comes from, they are real beings with real wants and needs, limited by their stature, by their size, by, you know, the way they look, the way they communicate. And so there's a lot of clashing, but it's, you know, it's in good faith. I think the other thing about it is, you know, like with the first one, they established that they are the organizing principle of their life is they are looking for a strong boss. And this, you know, in the second one, I don't totally remember what, I know they end up with Sandra Bullock, but, you know, it's more of that kind of a thing. Here, I like the fact that they don't make the Minions a monolith. You know, yes, you know, just like in any society, you're going to have people married to the organizing principle, but you're going to have some outsiders. You're going to have people who, you know, dream of what's up there in the stars. You know, what is there more to life than just this? You know, there's always going to be like a Jack Nicholson minion running around going, "Is this as good as it gets?" And I like that because that's true to life. So having a minion who is kind of a square peg in a round hole, and he's just like, I have an imagination, I have dreams, I have things I want to do besides the bidding of a strong boss, and I want to make movies. I'm like, well, gosh, that speaks to my heart. So I like that. I like that they went out of their way to do that in this movie, but they still kept some of that in there. So, like, yes, it's very easy to pick at the Dick character, but the Dick character is essential, as are all the minions that kind of follow him, and then the little group that follows James is as equally important. So all of that's good stuff. Yeah, Robin and I have been talking about like certain movies where they're like Hollywood appreciation movies, but they don't seem to be as in good faith, or it's more self-aggrandizing. Like this isn't that. This is, I think, somebody who very much appreciates the art of making movies and the history of it, and I think more importantly the history of it, and going, why don't we do a movie about the history, the early history of, again, I'll bring up Babylon. Babylon exists at the time of the big changeover from silent movies to sound movies, to talkies. And, it was really a monumental event in filmmaking. And here's a guy going, I want to talk about that, but I'm going to do it with the Minions. Okay, cool. Robert brought up, this is also around the same time of like the monster movies. And so this is sort of a love letter to that. And I think, this far into film history and as the decades have gone by, I don't think we realize what our relationship has been with the monster movie. This movie, in its own way, speaks to that. So I thought all of that was cool. As I said, Robert's like, you got to kind of watch these movies like they're modern Looney Tunes. And I was thinking about, because people are now uploading old Bugs Bunny clips. And, I think Alexis will agree with this. The Looney Tunes had real characters who had real wants and needs, who had real personalities. Mm-hmm. And then it was just the circumstances they're in, the situation that they're in. Bugs Bunny will always be this way. Okay? We'll not put him in a situation where they're trying to build a building on top of his hole. Bugs Bunny is always going to be the same way. He is always the same character. Okay? But now do it where there's an opera singer outside of his hole making too much noise. There's a hunter trying to kill him. There's a pirate trying to do this. And it's like, well, what is Bugs Bunny, who's always the same way, going to do in this situation? And that's kind of what they do with the Minions now. It's, what's the situation the Minions are in? They'll always be the Minions. They're going to be minion-y about it. But what are they doing? In what situation? Which I think is like the best way to handle the Minions if you want to keep this going, which Illumination seems to. Like my son comment about it tonight when we were at dinner was, he was like, the Minions are good for a short. They really aren't great for a 2-hour movie. And I went, except for the fact that they keep making a lot of money, so there's no way they're giving this away for free. He was like, touche. Craft reviews, just so I can make sure I said stuff about the actual craft of the movie. All the voice work is good. I laughed at a lot of the Dort stuff. I laughed at a lot of Christoph Waltz. Obviously, the Minions pigeon speak is, funny to me. Allison Janney cracks me up. This style of animation that's right out of, like, the way they draw the very long stick figure kind of people. It's very consistent, very distinct. Where no one looks like human beings, but who cares? They've decided that this is what this world looks like, and that's fine. And it's a colorful movie. It's a nice looking movie. It's very busy, but it's not so busy that I got overwhelmed. There's a part towards the end, where the third act gets very noisy. There's almost no dialogue. It's a lot of action. But it didn't get as overwhelming to me as the last time I complained about this. I don't remember if it was Mortal Kombat where I ran screaming out of the movie theater, or the Mandalorian and Grogu, but there was something we saw in recent memory where I left the theater because I was so over fucking whelmed with. It was Mario Brothers, is what it was. Yeah, this did a better job of handling the busyness and the sound and visuals than the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Outside of that, like I said, I had a great time with this. I laughed my ass off, and when it was over, I literally just turned to my kids and went 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Like,
well, these days, if it's Meltzer, that's actually like 6.5 stars because he broke his own scale. But
okie dokie.
It goes to 7.
I say something critical about this movie, or I'll shoot you because I don't believe it's you, Mark Radulich. I don't really have anything to complain about. the movie was portioned out appropriately for all the characters that they had. They gave Dick and his crew with Dort plenty of time. They gave James and his crew plenty of time. Everything flowed smoothly. There was no wasted motion. Like, I honestly, this is going to be in my top 10, and I hate that because it makes me sound like Alexis, but it's true. This is the most well-made movie of this year.
I actually do have a question for you guys. Something
one
that
sec. Let me complete that thought, and then you can ask your question.
Okay.
Like, this, honestly, this is right up there with Project Hail Mary for me. Like, it's that well made. Now go ahead, Alexis.
So there is one thing, and this is the nitpickiest of nitpicks, but it is something I'd like to get your guys' opinion on, and that is a lot of I've been reading a lot of other reviews of this movie. I wanted to hear what other people thought. And the only complaint that popped up repeatedly is some people said they wish that this hadn't been called Minions and Monsters, because the monsters don't show up until over halfway into the movies. A lot of people are saying this should have been the Minions Do Hollywood, or the Minions Make a Movie, or the Minions Go Hollywood or something. Do you guys think the title should have been changed, or what do you think?
You could have gone either way. I think the problem with, if you went with, like, the Minions Do Hollywood, you're drawing a real straight line to the Muppets at that point.
True.
And I think that's a line you don't want to draw.
I'm fine with the title. They introduced Goonie early enough in this, and Goonie represents the monsters. He's in the picture with the Minions for 2/3 of the movie. I'm fine with it. I think that's a dumb complaint.
Fair enough. Like I said, it's just something that I saw come up repeatedly.
No, it's fine that you brought it up. I'm telling those people are dumb. Go ahead, Robert.
I have a real soft spot for the entire Despicable Me franchise. I need to revisit the first one and figure out exactly like what I know. That's still probably my favorite of them.
We've never done a Long Road to Ruin on this.
Really?
Yeah, I can go back. I know we did Minions. I know we've done some of the Despicable Me's, but when those movies started coming out, and I'll go back and look and see when the first one came out, I don't think we were doing Damn You Hollywood. That's how far back these go.
I was on the last Despicable Me one, because I remember I predicted that the next Minions movie was going to be the superhero Minions that they introduced in the last Despicable Me movie.
I actually remember you bringing that up and rolling my eyes then. Hang on.
I was wrong, but
yeah, 2010. My daughter wasn't even born yet. I was like married. I married about a little less than a year when the first one came out. The second one comes out, and my son isn't born yet, but my daughter is too. And then we must have started with Despicable Me 3.
I think that was the first one we reviewed proper.
Because that was 2017, and by then, yes, Damn You Hollywood. Damn You Hollywood starts basically in 2014, so we missed the first two movies, but we've done all of them. We've done the rest of them since.
Yeah, I need to figure out why I like these as much as I do, just so I understand it better, not because I'm trying to suck the joy out of my life.
Well, that's why I threw it out there. I was like, if I'm going to do a Long Road to Ruin with Robert, like that would be a fun one to do, because then it gives you the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
I was going to say, I could watch the first Despicable Me movie 1,000,000 times. I don't know why, but I never get sick of it. It makes me laugh every time.
It is endlessly rewatchable in ways that most modern movies especially are not. So I've got a soft spot for the whole franchise. I think it's pretty much been well shepherded by all the relevant people in charge. They are happy to make movies in this franchise at the pace they are making movies at this franchise in. And that's a big deal, because otherwise you get, hey, we're making 4 movies this year. And well, that's a bad idea.
Pacing and quality. Who'd have thunk it?
Indeed. So I am predisposed to liking these in general. There's been the growing like subgenre of film that is just cinema appreciation, which really it had kind of like, you always get these on occasion, like movies that are love letters to movies. This is not new. It just really kind of ramped up after COVID, when everyone kind of looked around and went, oh no, this might actually be a finite pursuit. And as Hollywood is starting to show signs of becoming the next Detroit, these have started to ramp up a little bit more. Like, no. The old studios are great.
There's a lot of people going, please steer the ship away from the iceberg.
So that's been, again, kind of a growing thing lately. Babylon was one, but I mean, Babylon deals with a lot of the same material as Singing in the Rain, which is old. So not new, but enjoying a big recent push. Like, hey, remember why you like movies? Remember that you like movies? Theaters need to stick around. Studios need to stick around. We want this to continue, right? Right? Several of those of the movies in this subgenre are just insufferable. Babylon is self-indulgent to the point of almost self-parody. Everyone just points out, like, oh, but it's but like, there's so much good production stuff. Like, there's some, but that's like a 3-hour movie. You can't show a clip and go, how did this not make money, when there's another 2 hours and 40 minutes of the movie that you're ignoring. So some of these are just, again, they're self-indulgent, they're grating, they're preachy. The number of these that are like, won't someone think of the children, but won't someone think of the Directors Guild? It's just, there's a lot of them.
So your comparison to Minions and Monsters being?
The few of these that are genuine and earnest and like good-hearted in their just expression of love are endearing in ways that put everything else that is commercial and cynical in this same subgenre to shame.
Which is also hilarious when you, again, look at the amount of merchandising when you talk about over commercializing.
Yeah. When it comes from a genuine place, the amount of criticisms that fall away when something is being done in earnest and organically is shocking. But because it is good-hearted, because it is earnest and just a genuine expression of affection, it's impossible to predict for, but it is also impossible to ignore the difference between a cynical attempt that is being fed by an algorithm and by like what you want on a spreadsheet, and one that is done out of genuine, coming from a genuine human place. It's ineffable, but it's also impossible to ignore, because it's the difference between Babylon falling on its face and Minions and Monsters introducing people, maybe introducing a bunch of kids to, hey, can we watch some Charlie Chaplin films? Because they're still hilarious. Or, seeing the clips that are, insane stuff from Buster Keaton. Like, let me knock a house down around me. Boy, I sure hope the measurements are right, because bear in mind, that's a real house wall. And it would have killed him if it had landed on him. So you get just a pretty big difference there. And this movie it has all those little bits sprinkled throughout it. And then to cap it all off, we have the most 1950s sci-fi ending ever, when the robot brings his army of UFOs to laser blast the blob monster. Like, you can't get more mashup-y than this. But where it might have been done otherwise is just, let's throw ideas in a blender and see what comes out. This is done with thought and care and affection for what it's talking about and homaging.
Yeah, the people who put this together actually knew why these things worked and how they worked and what about them that we liked, and put all that into making this movie, which is generally the opposite of what we're looking at and why we complain.
Yeah. And when you just getting something that's the full-blown opposite of so much of what goes on right now is so refreshing. Again, we've got something that is well-colored, is easily readable visually. It's the kind of thing that you do actually have to watch instead of just listen to. Again, for a franchise that is, 16 years old at this point, to have by accident almost been ahead of the curve on how do we get people off their phones and paying attention to what's on the screen in front of them with a gibberish language and slapstick comedy. Again, you couldn't have predicted that necessarily, but what's the antidote to it's I have to see the gag. Because if I'm not watching, I'm going to miss it. This doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a real tight 90 minutes. I think ideally this is a 60-minute, pseudo feature, but in finding ways for the 90 minutes, they found good stuff. Again, the minion separation of tribes within this tribe, the stuff you do with Dort is not stupid and pointless. It's there to service the finale of all things. So Dort gets a little bit of a subplot, which is fine. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It plays into some good gags.
Was a little creepy at the end with the fun for the whole family turnout with him and his girlfriend, or I guess wife.
Yeah, but she's carrying a walkie-talkie in a swaddle blanket. Like it's.
Well, didn't you see there was also a kid next to him with his head?
Yeah.
Don't ask questions. Just
because this is the world this thing inhabits. I mean, occasionally the gag, like the internet talking point has been, so what are the minions going to do in the 1940s? And my reaction to that at this point is just, why do we assume Hitler existed in this world?
Yeah.
Like I'll grant you World War I and II happened, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to repeat exactly what was going on.
George Lucas, this isn't a fucking box. Let's get let's move past this already.
Yeah, I mean the minions blew up Napoleon well before his actual the extent of his conquest. If we go by the Minions movie, like this is not real life, people. So let's be serious.
I mean, for God's sakes, look at some of their bosses: the Wizard, the Cyclops, Dracula.
Yep.
Yeah, is anyone watching? Real quick aside, and I apologize, Robert, because if someone did this to me, I would be banging on the desk. But I will not be those people and be short about this. So I sent my parents the Grease Long Road to Ruin I did for my birthday, and I talked about how Grease is the 1970s, remembering the 1950s and leaving out all the bad parts.
Mm-hmm.
I sent that to my parents because because for once in my life I said something nice about my mother, and I'll never forgive myself for it. And I wanted, I took a wild swing, and I wanted my parents' approval on something that they might actually enjoy. So I sent them the Grease podcast. My father's response to it, he was like, "What'd you think Grease was a documentary?" No, just okay, Dad. My point is, and the reason why I mentioned it and related it to what's happening here is, if anyone is looking at the Minions movies for historical accuracy, go touch grass. I have a flower bed that needs weeding. Fuck off.
Yeah, so these again, using the Minions as we've lost some of the sacred texts of the entertainment world, but the character Bible used to be a thing. And one of the things about the Looney Tunes in particular was each Looney Tune had the rules for them. You can find the rules for the Roadrunner and Coyote online. These are famously available. Here's the rules. This only takes place in the American Southwest visually. The Roadrunner only runs on the road. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a Roadrunner, would he? The Roadrunner can never hurt the Coyote. The Coyote's foibles are always of his own doing. The Coyote only buys things from the Acme Corporation. Like you establish the box with the character Bible. But here's the great thing about limitations. They are freeing. Okay, don't do the things outside the box. Okay, but what can we do in the box? Anything in the box is fair game. Don't break the rules. Go wild. And those seem like contradictory directives, but they're really not. It is only within the appropriate bounds of... Appropriately bounded creativity is the most freeing creativity there is. Everyone pretends that it's, no, you can do anything you want. That leads to taping a banana to a wall. Like, no, that's not... Put the right boundaries in place. Go wild within the boundaries. You'll be amazed at what comes out of that. That's where the Minions are. follow the Minions Bible follow the character Bible for the Minions and throw them anywhere. And you will get hilarity as long as you are not an idiot.
Well, let's just also hope that those at Universal don't think that seeing what the Minions would do with Hitler should be in the next movie. Let's just pray for a little common sense.
You've got to wait another 20 years before you could do that comedy. I wish I was joking, but like we're going to celebrate 2046. We'll feature the Minions being partially responsible for the fall of Nazi Germany, because at that point, enough time will have passed. Full on 100 years later, we got to be able to make the joke. But prior to that, yeah, let's not just let them be funny. You can do endless things with the Minions. Just don't break the rules, and you will have success. This movie had something to say about Hollywood, about the nature of entertainment. Nothing deep and profound, but there's something there to think about and to talk about when it's all said and done. And you got great gags. You've got a couple of more Minions that are memorable enough as Minions. And if you know anything about the history of film and Hollywood, there's so much here to just sink your teeth into watching it. The Minions are all named after Hollywood personalities. There's so many things in the background that's just, no, that's an homage to that movie. That's an homage to that actor, that director, that character. Right down to, again, the Bright brothers being a send-up of the Warner brothers. Like, there's so much here. You get these kinds of movies when people are just given the appropriate freedom to create what they want to create. And the creatives have enough common sense to not be morons about this. It's a wonderful system when it works properly. It really is. Just so often doesn't work properly. I'm with you, Mark. This is probably going to wind up on my best of list, because what is there to really critique about this movie? It hits every mark it wants to hit.
I think people are going to ask, like, okay, this is a wild and silly and colorful movie made for kids, and you 2.5 serious movie reviewers are gushing about this, but you kicked the living fuck out of Mario Galaxy. You were okay with Hoppers. You kicked the living shit out of Toy Story. And I think just a really quick kind of difference between this and those,
okay,
for the audience's sake, needs to be had.
That's fair.
If I go back and I look at, again, Hoppers, Mario, Toy Story, there were craft issues with all three of those. In some cases, it was story. In some cases, it was voice work. In some cases, it was animation. In some cases, there was issues with the theme. In some cases, there were issues with the pacing. Part of the reason I'm, in particular, and I'll kick it over to you, Robert, that I'm gushing about Minions and Monsters is I don't have those complaints about this movie. And no, it's easy. It would be easy to say, and low-hanging fruit, and that's why I'm kind of getting ahead of this debate. But like, oh, you like it, therefore you like it, therefore you say it's better than Mario. No, Mario had real problems. We outlined them on that review. I'm not letting it go because it's funny. I was talking to a client earlier, and she was like, "Oh, my kids love the Mario movie," and I went, "Good for them." Like, what do you want me to say? And then she was like, "You didn't like it," and I'm just like, "Let's stick with your therapy." But
that's a level of professionalism I aspire to, Mark. Given that particular opportunity, I might have gone off and wasted their time.
I am a goddamn professional.
Well, there's probably a million kids who also like Toy Story 5, and more than a handful of them weren't alive when Toy Story 3 came out.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. Like I said, I don't. At no point during any of these do I say people shouldn't like something. But if you ask me, this is the fight that I've been getting into with all of our friends and everybody else for years now. Don't ask me my opinion if you don't want me to tell you what's wrong with the thing you like, because I will, and I'll notice it. I'm really good at this. Robert's really good at this. We will tell you about what's wrong with a movie. Alexis, you're good at this. She will tell you what's wrong with a movie when she finds one. My point is, like,
you would be proud of me. Dorian absolutely loves Supergirl, and I managed to stand and say, well, and I brought up the production design issues that I had with it, which we talked about on last week's show.
So what's the difference ultimately between this movie and its other big time animated projects from earlier this year? This had almost no flaws. And I went looking. I really tried. Like, I don't want to come on here and just gush. And like, Christ, we always bring up the Batman. I criticized the Batman too. I just wanted to say how much I loved the thing first. And then I was like, okay, but here's what's wrong with it. I didn't see anything wrong with this movie the way I saw things wrong with Hopper's Toy Story 5 and Mario. Robert?
If I could tackle these in order real fast. Toy Story 5 being the most recent one. Toy Story 5, you can listen to our, like, setting aside maybe even like my very high order objections to that movie. Toy Story 5 struggles in a lot of respects. Tonally, it struggles with its narrative focus. It fundamentally fails. Somebody else pointed this out, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that's it. Toy Story 5 isn't about the toys. It's about Bonnie. And that's a fundamental flaw, like foundational assumption that is wrong with that movie.
Actually a really good point. Something I hadn't thought of.
So again, somebody else pointed out, I wish I could remember who I saw do it, because I saw it, I saw them say it, and I went,
yep,
yes,
there it is.
Like, Andy exists in the Toy Story trilogy. He is not the character. Bonnie is the central character of Toy Stories 4 and 5. And
more so 5 for sure.
Significantly more so 5, but yeah, 5 in particular. Like, we'll stick with that one. Like, that's a story about Bonnie, not about the toys, and it fails because of it. Hoppers suffers a little bit from some of Pixar's animation choices at this point. It's not quite the photorealistic stuff, and for a nature movie, it really kind of needed something really beautiful that it didn't quite hit.
It needed to look like Moana.
It needed to look like a Ghibli movie, and it didn't. And Super Mario Galaxy isn't really a story. It's a sequence of events that happen. And it bounces around a bit too much. And you can listen to our review of that. I didn't call that thing 18 TikToks in a trench coat masquerading as a movie for nothing. I'm never going to say that about this movie. This movie is narrative driven, character focused, very well animated, very easy to follow, very intelligently put together. I think that was maybe my other gripe with, Toy Story 5 is it's a lot of rehashing of stuff we've already done. It's narratively and thematically lazy. Minions and Monsters is not thematically lazy. If it was lazy, it would have just been a rehash of a previous Minions movie. It's not. It's the Minions in a different setting doing different things. Is it a little formulaic if you want to, twist my arm? Yeah, the Minions are a tad on the formulaic side because that's what they're supposed to be.
I was saying, go back to my Looney Tunes thing that you pointed out. Looney Tunes are formulaic. Character exists. Contrarian. What's the word I'm looking for?
Friction,
antagonistic thing exists in that space. Conflict arises. Hilarity ensues. Our hero defeats the enemy. Next, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. So again, if you wanted to really twist my arm, slightly. But by the point you're abstracting that formula to where what the Minions are doing, what do you want out of this? Hamlet?
Well, I was going to say, okay, then I suppose that we should go back in time and shoot Joe Campbell for writing his book.
I mean, you should for his badly done research, but that's a whole other discussion point.
My point is, if you don't think there's a lot of repetition and formula in the action adventure. I mean, Christ Almighty! Let's take Alexis's Kryptonite, the rom-com, the romance movie. Those aren't formulaic? Come on. Boy meets girl. Boy and girl get together. Boy and girl erupt in some way. Boy then tries to get girl back, succeeds in doing it. Lobster. The same fucking movie over and over and over again.
As a general rule, yeah, like what makes the good entries into any of these genres is not that they break formula. We become so obsessed with, subversion and disruption that people have forgotten, like, well, okay, yeah, the Jane Austen books are all formulaic. That's very true. Read them, because what makes them great is her writing. This is a guy who has never empathized more with another character than watching Tom Hanks take a drink every time he turns a page reading Pride and Prejudice, because I had to read that when I was in high school. That doesn't stop Jane Austen's writing from being really, really good. It's
also psychologically,
that's what's missing.
Psychologically, human beings seek out structure and seek out repetition. Like, we like stability. Like, so Hollywood would not exist. The film industry would not exist if they didn't use formula, because we would reject it.
Yeah. The problem is when the formula becomes too specific, it becomes artificial. Like, when people complain about the Marvel formula, the argument is not the big overarching structure of superhero movies. The problem with the Marvel formula is introduction, number of quips. First villain introduction includes X number of quips. Hero fails one of two ways. Sidekick is introduced with X. Like, the formula got so specific about dialogue patterns, number of jokes, kinds of scenes, and your big sky laser with a faceless army at the end.
And another way of putting this would be, if you want to know where formula really has a problem, is where Hollywood executives are saying we have to be X amount of minutes into the movie before we introduce an action scene.
Or, I will never forgive this particular failed screenwriter, but in your first 30 pages, save the cat in the tree.
All right.
So my point there, like, the Minions, to the extent that they're formulaic, it's the highest level of formula.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hero, conflict, resolution. This is the fundamental basis of storytelling. If that's formulaic, you've lost the plot.
So, Alexis, I'm going to give you the last word here on why we're all in agreement that this is the best anime of the ones we've discussed. I'm not going to go into whatever fucking K-pop, Studio Ghibli, fucking Japanese anime talking tree movies you
Mark, we have got to get you culture at some point.
No.
For the record, I'm not expecting anything until Lycia releases Wildwood later this year.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
But I will give you the final word on the discussion being why this movie works and why we're saying it's darn near perfect and the other ones weren't. Go.
Well, my biggest complaint with the Mario Brothers movie wasn't so much the pacing. It was that they revealed too much in the marketing. It was the fourth Captain America movie all over again. The Toy Story movie, again, is struggling to keep up after they had a perfect finale, and everyone and anyone who's seen that movie is going to constantly compare it to that and feel that it's lacking. Like I said earlier, the Minions movies are not trying to be something they're not. They are just an hour and a half of silly, goofball, slapstick energy, and they know how to market it to that, and that's what makes it succeed. It's knowing what you have as a product and knowing how to push that product.
All right. With that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Yes, no. All right. On a budget of... It's the wrong one. $85 million. This thing has made $161 million.
So we're already basically towards profit because this is appropriately budgeted.
As of July 5th, Minions and Monsters grossed $62 million in the U.S. and Canada and $99 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $161 million. It was produced on an $85 million budget. In the U.S., they gave less to this movie than they did the What's-Her-Face to do The Bride. Maggie Gyllenhaal. In the U.S. and Canada, Minions and Monsters was initially projected to gross $80 million from 4,243 theaters over its 5-day Independence Day holiday frame. Internationally, projections were around $90 million for a projected worldwide opening of $170 million. The film opened to $14.2 million on its first day, $36.4 million by day 3, $61.4 million over the 5-day holiday frame, opening number 1 at the box office, but marking a franchise low opening. Compared to Despicable Me 4, the last numbered installment, and the previous spin-offs, Minions: The Rise of Gru, which both opened 120 to 122 million respectively over the same frame, Minions and Monsters was considered to be a major disappointment. The poorer than usual opening was attributed to America 250 celebrations driving away ticket sales, competition from Disney and Pixar's Toy Story 5, and franchise fatigue from the Despicable Me series, though some outlets expressed optimism of the film's performance over the coming weeks. Robert, you want to take a stab at why you think this one opened lower than normal?
I think Despicable Me 4 may have soured a few people because that was one of the ones that we reviewed and we're like, not sure about this one, guys.
Yeah.
I
want to stop you there. I've been thinking about Star Trek, the TNG movies, and how like you get Generations, which is the handoff movie, and then First Contact, which is a big event movie. It was a reason to come to the theaters, and then the next two are elongated episodes of the TNG series, and that's a problem that a lot of longtime movie franchises can't seem to escape, where they don't know how to make event movies anymore, and they just start making episodes of a television show that happen to be 90 minutes to 2 hours. I think, to kind of help you along with your point, and I'm going to tag you back in, I think that might be what's happening for a lot of people is we all have already well established. I don't want to repeat all the same shit here again, but we've already established that it takes a monumental event to get people to come to the theater for a variety of reasons, all of which have been documented over the last few years on this podcast and others. If something starts to look like another episode of the Thing TV show, they're not coming out for it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. It's also got to be deeply frustrating if you're part of Illumination that this movie, which is I think the most well-reviewed critically of the entire Minions spinoff, like not necessarily Despicable Me, but just of the Minions movies, this has the highest amount of like critical reception.
Mm-hmm.
And it's opening soft because the last Minions movie had a meme about showing up in formal wear to go watch it. Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering if opening up on, I know that this is we always talk about holiday weekend, but this was 4th of July weekend. It was on a Saturday, and I wonder if that maybe also contributed to that. People are probably more likely to be going out to barbecues and going out to watch the fireworks than going to watch a movie.
Yeah, and especially for a big birthday, like 250 is a big number. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they're right to point out that there was a lot of extra stuff going on that may have detracted from this. I don't think Toy Story hurt it that much. We've reached the point where the audience for the Minions movie and the audience for your average Pixar movie have less overlap than you might think. So I imagine that this particular holiday did take a chunk out of it. Franchise fatigue is kind of a real thing, and I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit, Mark. Like, this is a fine movie. It's going to make money. It's probably going to be a disappointment if you expected this to do $1 billion.
Yeah, well, like I said, or maybe I wasn't clear about this. The studios thought it was a disappointment.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean when I say like you.
But but this is like with Lucasfilm in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where it's like, oh, it's only going to get better, and they got progressively worse financially. It's studio executives, their lives are very much whatever the last thing was. Like, their institutional memory is whatever the most recent thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Supergirl for a second. Again, I may have hated the movie for a variety of reasons, but I'm allowed to. I'm not one of the man babies who are still not over the slights that they had to suffer over the last decade. I don't want these movies to fucking fail. But I'll tell you, studio executives are gonna. The true tragedy of the Supergirl movie is that people are gonna look at this and go, "Oh, girl movies don't sell anymore." No, you just keep making bad ones. You make bad assumptions, make bad decisions, and then a bad movie comes out. And the problem isn't that it was led by a girl. The problem is that everything along the way was shit. The girl was almost incidental.
The girl was entirely incidental, apart from the fact that the studio scapegoated her by having her say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
On the record as a means of shielding them from actual criticism.
So they're looking at the last Despicable Me movie or the last Minions movie and going, "Oh, this should make $1 billion. The last one did," without doing any kind of like critical thinking about the shape of the movie industry and maybe lowering expectations a bit.
I mean, look, this is probably going to be fine. It's going to have, look, the Minions have always played well worldwide. They also historically have good legs because it's a short movie that your kids can watch safely and is funny, is well made. Like, this is going to hang around for a bit because it's appealing to an audience that you're not going to go spend 2 hours on Toy Story 5 with your kids a second or third time if you have other options. Like, this movie is going to eat Toy Story's lunch in the sense that this is going to wildly impact what it's able to reach. And Toy Story 5 has also struggled worldwide. It's a lot more heavily skewed American, or domestic, for want of a better expression.
Now, I think this is the last animated feature for a while.
Yeah, I don't think there's something else until, again, Laika's movie's coming out later. But after that, it's geez, there another Pixar there's another Pixar movie.
There's Hexed in November.
Yeah, that was the other one. So I don't think there's another major release until November.
Yeah.
Here, I can take a look real quick.
All right, while you're doing that, Minions was the #1 movie of the weekend. Toy Story fell from 1 to 2, had a 57.2%
Steeper
drop in its third week.
So Toy Story held on pretty decently its first week. Again, only around 55%. 57 of the 55. It's still holding okay. I expect to take a steeper drop next week for a number of reasons.
Young Washington from Angel Studios debuted at number 3. Let's talk about what happened here. Supergirl fell from 2 to 4 at a 76.8% drop. Like, I'm still getting Supergirl content on TikTok. And even like, so people are posting their reviews of it, and a lot of it's middle of the road. Like, I'm not getting as much of the thing that I talked about on my 20-minute fucking TikTok, which I will never do again.
TikTok is not the platform for that one, Mark.
Yeah, it's 22 minutes, maybe the appropriate length of time for a podcast, as Jesse tells us. But a 20-minute TikTok was a lot for me.
Okay, so, well, it is worth pointing out on August 14th, we have Paw Patrol, the Dino movie. There's going to be a handful of
I keep
pets.
kidding my son about that. I'm like, look, don't you like Paw Patrol? He's 12, going on 100. Don't you like Paw Patrol?
September 25th, we have Forgotten Island.
Right.
God.
DreamWorks.
Yeah, DreamWorks saying, hey, we can do K-pop Demon Hunters. Watch.
No, you can't.
That thing's going to bomb fucking hard.
November 6th, Cat in the Hat. November 25th, Hexed.
Both of which are
December
gonna bomb.
23rd, Angry Birds 3.
I just saw the trailer for that.
May not bomb.
Yeah,
That
so
looks
the
so
point of it is,
stupid.
for the next couple of months, Minions has plenty of runway. There's no real
Yeah.
competition. All right, so getting back to Supergirl. I talked about
76% is catastrophic under the best of
Hey,
circumstances.
slow down there, Horsey. I talked about there's a phenomenon happening with Supergirl of self-identified messy girls identifying with the character and the mental math is, I see myself in the main character, therefore the movie is good. That is a huge chunk of the reviews that I saw. They didn't say it in such clean language because they don't have it. But that's basically the inference that I got. Like I'm looking at their reviews of this, and basically what they're saying is Supergirl was great. Supergirl did all of these things that I could see myself doing, and I don't understand why people don't like this. Okay, what you basically just said is I am a dysfunctional, dysregulated person, and I saw this other dysfunctional, dysregulated person doing really good things and being a decent person. Therefore, the movie is good. I would like to point out yet again, that is not how movie criticism works. That's just projection. Having said that, that even seems to have gone away now, and it's just a lot of people going, it was okay. Like, a lot of people like not understanding where all the hatred's coming from, which is its own separate topic. But definitely there's a lot of like, I liked the actress. I liked Lobo. The aesthetics, the visuals suck. Overall, it was okay. There's a lot more of that going on. Having said that, yeah, now I'll tag you back in, Robert. An almost 80% drop. This movie is dead. Dead as Kelsey's nuts. DED, dead.
If James Gunn weren't already actively shooting Man of Tomorrow, they would have drug him out behind the barn and shot him.
Yeah.
Like this. James Gunn, I am not going to kill him as a director here because I think he has his place as a director. He has his limitations. Sure. Who doesn't? What James Gunn has massively failed at here is being a studio head, because
Okay,
that's
so,
what
so Alexis is doing the kill me face. So Alexis, pay attention to what Robert just said and stay with us. He's not saying he's a bad director.
No, I'm not upset about you guys talking about James Gunn being done, although that does depress me. It's a case of, well, the positivity was nice while it lasted, and back to square one.
It's not negativity. It's just we're doing the news, and the news is
So-
not good. Hang on.
Okay.
Alexis, you're gonna sit here and try to sell me on the idea of an 80% drop in your second week is not bad news for the people in charge of making these movies, whoever they are.
No, did I say that? No, I know it's bad news. I'll consider it a miracle if Gunn manages to stay in charge, but it doesn't change the fact that I was really hoping that things would go better, and this is depressing.
I was really hoping we'd just skip the news and like the Minions was great, yay! Not Rotten Tomatoes. Like skip this entire segment.
Yeah. So
sorry, Speedy, we can't. It's the news.
I know, and I'm allowed to say, "Oh, fuck me! I wish things were better."
Sure.
Look, James Gunn has his place as a director. I'm
wrong. He was the wrong. Look, I can tell you what happened. Guardians of the Galaxy was a really big hit, and that's all anyone remembers. That's it. Guardians of the Galaxy took an obscure property and made
that happened too through good choice and the alchemical magic of movie making.
Well,
find the right director for the right property.
It was a phase 2 movie in the middle of Marvel's like rise to fame. So it's got that. He happened to have taken, yes, an oddball comic and made it something palatable for the masses, which is, I don't take that away from him. He did a really good job with that. The problem is everyone's looking at that, including Alexis, I think, and like ignores everything else. Because again, the second movie and the third movie I don't think did as well as the first movie financially, number one. Number two, they were both made at like interesting times because the second one, I believe, is part of phase 3.
Yeah, the second one leads very closely into Infinity War.
Right. So it's like good, bad, or indifferent, good made more money, made less money. Nobody really notices because it's caught up in the big wave of everything good happening at Marvel. So throw all that out. Right. He gets himself in trouble with Twitter because he has a weird sense of humor. He gets fired. And then they let him come back and do the third one in the middle of. It's like the only Marvel movie that's like halfway decent at the time.
It's like that and Multiverse of Madness are the only ones that kind of sparked in the. And Multiverse of Madness also burned the fan base so badly that they still haven't recovered.
So my point is, if you just look at those isolated movies, remember 2 minutes ago when I said a lot of studio executives have like poor institutional memory. So he's getting the benefit of Marvel being on the rise without anyone giving a real critical look at what he's doing. They're just going, oh, his movies are doing well enough, and they're a part of this other thing that's doing really, really well, and it's about to make $2 billion. I guess he's okay. And then he got himself fired because he's a schmuck. And then he gets the Suicide Squad, which comes out during COVID. So critics are like, your movie is doing terrible. It's tanking. You can't really hold that to me. It's day and date on HBO Max. It's in the middle of COVID. We're going to, so again, nobody critically looks at that and looks at his style of filmmaking or anything else. He just gets forgiven. And he comes back into Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and everyone's fucking like, we're so happy you made a better movie than Black Widow and the Eternals and Shang-Chi. It's like, oh, thank God, you're back. And it's that. It's all of that I just said that he ends up with the keys to DC. Who at this point, they're looking around going, is anyone good at making superhero movies? Anyone? As everyone runs screaming from this genre because it's been handled so poorly.
Yeah, and I think James Gunn can be a good director. I really do. I'm not here to kill him for his style or his predilections. I have movies of his that I enjoy. I have movies of his that I don't. I take those as they come. As a sort of studio head over this whole project, he has failed miserably.
But the thing, he was never the best. I know Alexis's counter argument to this is, but like, he's a comic book guy and he has made good movies and he seems to understand the comic books that are given to him. No argument there.
I was going to say his comic book shows have actually been incredibly successful.
Sure. And I'm not taking that away from him, but there are people I bring on this podcast because their expertise in a certain subject matter or their enthusiasm for a particular thing makes them really good talkers on that particular show. Would I have them help me run this? No. It takes an entirely different set of skills to do what Kevin Feige did with Marvel. Oh, and by the way, Kevin Feige had help. First, at least through half of that. Yeah, I think it was like Ike Perlmutter who had him on a leash.
Perlmutter, and the MCU started falling apart the more Feige got involved. I don't think that's an accident, but I also don't think it would be as successful as it was if you just take him out of the equation either.
Right.
So the tension.
Oh no, it was a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? So I think if you go listen to like the Midnight's Edge videos on like the Rise of Marvel, there was a committee. This committee was running the show. That's when Marvel was on the rocket ship to success. And then, as if nobody reads this stuff, nobody pays attention over at Warner Brothers. No one's paying attention to why are things successful. There's no critical thinking involved. They just go, oh, the guy that made the good movie, we should put him in charge because he's available. Like, if you're asking why I spent time on this, why I'm using the failure of Supergirl to point all this out, it is because people in charge of like $1 million companies, $1 billion companies shouldn't be this bad at making decisions. And if I can figure out this along the way, why are people who make 10 times my salary, who are in charge of running a studio, making decisions like put the guy who made Guardians of the Galaxy in charge of this entire company? Like, there are certain skills you need, and he doesn't have them. How do you not know that? How did this fucking interview process go? I'm going to give you the last word on this, Robert, and then we can just move on.
To somewhat give the studio executives a small benefit of the doubt. As small as I'm going to do it, but I'm going to give them a very small benefit of the doubt here.
Robert Winfrey for the defense.
Here's the sequence of events, okay? You have Zack Snyder doing kind of godfathering this at first, right?
Yeah.
Which falls apart due to personal tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
No one that could have...
Also lack of success.
But hang on. If you really want me to unpack that, allow me to do so very briefly in response.
Well, I say it was also Warner Brothers leaning on him to speed things up.
There's a lot going on there, but Zack Snyder, his game plan was kind of as follows. Okay, I'm in charge of DC. I'm in charge of the DC superhero comic properties. How are we going to do this? Well, what do we need? The goal is to get to a Justice League movie, right? This is clearly the goal. So what do we need for a Justice League movie? Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, primarily. At least one other member of the Justice League, and then we can fish the fifth one throughout. Settled on Aquaman for that role. Okay, it's a choice. Could have gone with a number of ways. Aquaman is not the worst thing you could have done there. But take 3 of the big guns, get them up and running, then get to your team-up movie. This is Marvel Phase 1. This should not be complicated, right? It's complicated by a couple of things. One, some of Zack Snyder's predilections as a director being a little bit divisive. Fine. 2, Zack Snyder having to step away from the whole project. But Man of Steel made money. A little divisive, but it made money. Okay, yes, Dawn of Justice has serious problems. You will never hear me say otherwise. It still made money, and it still did part of what it was supposed to do. If you're curious what some of what it was supposed to do, it's to set up for Justice League. It's also to set up the interim, because between Dawn of Justice and Justice League, we get Wonder Woman, which is successful and somewhat beloved. We were very complimentary of it. And Aquaman, which makes $1 billion. Like, let's not pretend this is all going badly. Then there's not enough oversight for Justice League, and Zack Snyder has to step away. Then we hire Joss Whedon, and we get what we get, and then everything goes off the rails because then Whedon.
Hang on, it's important to note this. Who had just come off the very successful Age of Ultron, at which point he's brought in to turn Justice League into an Avengers movie.
Yeah, so Zack Snyder's got a vision. It's an artistic vision, which is to say there's a bunch of people who don't like it. But there's a lot of people who do. So that's kind of where you want to be a little bit here. Then he has to step away. Then we bring in Joss Whedon because he did the Marvel thing. Okay. So he's going to be in charge of godfathering this now. And then, 6 weeks later, Joss Whedon is a terrible human being. So now Joss Whedon's out. Now what do we do? So we had one guy, and now we're dealing with a almost cult of online people who really want us to bring back the other guy who doesn't want to come back. So what do we do? Well, we got a couple of movies in the pipeline. Let's just see what happens. We're doing a Flash movie. We got a sequel to Aquaman, which made $1 billion. We got a sequel to Wonder Woman, which made a lot of money and was very well received.
We got 2 Shazam movies.
Yeah, and we got a Shazam sequel. And the first Shazam was fairly well received. So let's try to get sequels going while we figure out what we're going to do. And then it's just bomb after bomb after bomb. And some of this was for...
and my favorite thing, an aborted corporate takeover by The Rock.
And hang on. And this is the last thing here is, okay, we need someone to shepherd this. And, all right, well, Patty Jenkins is going to do did Wonder Woman, and it was well received. Let's do a sequel. Everybody hates it. Crap. Well, let's do an Aquaman sequel. Boy, does that suck out loud. The Flash might save us, right? James Gunn says it's the best superhero movie he's ever seen. No. Then Ezra Miller goes off the deep end, and the movie itself is hot garbage.
In all fairness to the Aquaman sequel, part of that problem was also the frantic editing trying to save face after the Johnny Depp Amber Heard debacle. And I do think it is worth pointing out that there has been a lot of bad luck that has really screwed over these franchises. Mm-hmm. Not only Zack Snyder's daughter, but if you look over at the Marvel side, the loss of Chadwick Boseman and the charges against Jonathan Major, both of which were linchpins of what Marvel had planned going forward. So there is a lot to say. It's like they did have some plans, and a handful of things happened that no one could have predicted, and had just and now you have 2 studios desperately trying to cling to their original plans and salvage what they can.
So yeah, like then all the sequels to the movies that Warner Brothers had made fail. Then The Rock shows up, and The Rock still has cachet at this point.
I'm
He's
still
like-
convinced that we can blame The Rock for Shazam Fury of the Gods failing. I said this on the review. I said, I am convinced they wrote a script featuring Shazam and the Marvel family going up against Black Adam. Then Dwayne Johnson gets on his fucking apple crate and says, no, I want to be the good guy. And they said, well, okay, here, it's like any page with Black Adam on it, rip, because everything in that movie that does not have to deal with the villains is actually pretty good. It's clear they just threw in these characters who were never in the comics at all. These were brand new characters. You even brought up they're not even correctly named according to the Greek mythology.
They're not.
And just tried to staple in these new pages to save that movie.
Yeah, so that falls apart. Then The Rock shows up, and again, he's got some cachet. He's like, look, Black Adam does really well. Let me handle this. I'm not just a pretty face. I actually have my own production company. I kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing. Let me take over. Black Adam bombs. At which point they say, no, sorry, Mr. The Rock, you will not be taking over you won't be taking over the DC thing. And at that point, James Gunn actually looks like a reasonable choice.
Okay.
He's not, because again, if you look at what James Gunn has done as the creative head, he has done I can't quite say the opposite. He has not done what you should be doing in the position of shepherding the whole thing.
Hang on one second. But this is the point. There's two things I want to say, then we got to move on. And I'm building on what you said there. Marvel had a committee that guided it almost the entirety of the way to Endgame. That committee dissipated, and Kevin Feige was kind of left unbridled. And we got what we got with phases 4 and 5. And now we're into the Great Reset. That will be Avengers Doomsday.
Where Doctor Doom will apparently have no history with Reed Richards.
Moving on.
We'll talk about it in November.
So
you bring the torch. I'll bring the pitchfork.
Here's the thing. What DC and Warner Brothers didn't seem to understand was it was the committee that was responsible for how well Marvel did and how it was able to stay on track. Zack Snyder was never the right guy. Creatively, he can make a really fine movie. People see. Check out my TikTok that put me over 100,000. People seem to really like Watchmen. Boy, did I tap a well there. Is he the guy that has to sit down and make critical decisions about how to launch movies, how to market movies, and what order these should be done in? No, he's not. Is James Gunn that guy? No, he's not. And if you're like, what was the point of all of this? A Superman movie can absorb over a decade's worth of bad decisions and poor leadership. Supergirl can't. Supergirl was never going to make money. There was a small chance that maybe they can reproduce the success of Barbie, but it was like 5%.
Less than that.
I'm being generous.
0.5%. You missed a decimal place there.
You're exceptionally negative. But at this point, we just laid out a decade of poor decisions. Not one did you get right. At no point in the shepherdship of DC on film, from Man of Steel to Aquaman 2, were any good decisions made.
Very few.
Whether they had some successes, I would not say they were good decisions. You can say some of it was bad luck, sure, but generally speaking, you can survive bad luck with good decision making. That's why I'm saying there wasn't much here. And that stuff affects people. Now you throw in everything else, and that also suppresses viewership. My point is, like, you can't have run a company this poorly, have this much shit on it, then throw something out like Supergirl and say, voila, lobster, and expect people to respond appropriately. This is a case study in how that doesn't happen. You can't keep chumming the water with shit and expect to catch anything. It doesn't happen. And people can sit here and be like, but Supergirl was good, but Supergirl, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if a small portion of you actually identify with this stupid chick and see yourself up there and think that makes a good movie. It doesn't matter. You're talking about an audience of millions and millions of people, and that takes building good decisions, takes trust. You have to build something. Something that the reason why I wanted to talk about this was something I've been on about a lot lately is everybody thinks you can just instantly create success. No, success comes from building things. You know, I don't want to go off on a long tangent here, but you know, you look at like the Hulk Hogan era of wrestling, you realize that was like a 2 to 3 year build. Wrestling, you know, and some halfway decent decisions had to have been made in order to get to WrestleMania and like the whole, you know, first wave of WWF success. There was a lot of stuff that had to happen, a lot of good decisions that had to be made, and a lot of building and a lot of trust that had to develop in order for that to be successful. And then, sure, then you have, you know, the success of the WWF that we know today. But, you know, and Pat and I spent some time talking about this a couple of years ago. It starts 2 to 3 years prior to WrestleMania. Robert, I'm going to give you the last word, and then we'll move on from Supergirl.
Yeah, look, I'm not here to knock James Gunn's artistic predilections as such, but when the first things you decide to do with the DC pantheon once you get a hold of it are the Superman movie was a mandate, not a choice on his part. When you do Supergirl and you've decided that the next things you're going to do are a Green Lantern series that's a Taylor Sheridan knockoff, it looks like. And you want to make a Mr. Terrific series to complement Peacemaker and Creature Commandos. I'm not saying there's no place for exploring these characters. There is. Clearly there is. I'm saying if I'm in charge of the DC pantheon and I have to make movies that are going to make money and generate momentum and rebuild trust, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, pick Flash or Green Lantern as your fourth and build to a Justice League movie. Yes, it's formulaic. I'm aware. Like, if you want to build this thing, you can't be the 4-year-old gluing popsicle sticks together. You have to actually understand architecture.
That's a good way to put it. All right. Disclosure Day in its 4th week, stayed at number 5. Obsession dropped from 3 to 6 in its 8th week. Backrooms dropped from 6 to 7 in its 6th week. Jackass in its 2nd week fell from 4 to 8. And had less of a drop than Supergirl.
It did.
Point that out. Scary Movie
Somehow.
Scary Movie dropped from 7 to 9. The Invite opened up in a bunch more theaters.
Yeah.
And jumped from 19 to 8. Masters in the Universe fell out of the top 10 to number 11. Boo. Star Wars fell out of the top 10 to number 12. Yay! Michael dropped from 12 to 13. Mary Oliver, Saved by the Beauty of the World, debuted at 28. Sherman's March, 30. That was the weekend that was worldwide. Okay, so
let's just go ahead and toast Universal as being the only studio that's probably going to be even remotely financially successful this year.
No, Michael's doing really well. So Super Mario's over $1 billion. Michael's at 991.
What studio released Michael?
Lionsgate.
Thank you.
Lionsgate's
Still around.
the Notre Dame Irish fucking studio. Come on, just scrappy.
They
out
are
there fighting.
For some reason, they're doing another Hunger Games movie.
Because the last one made a little bit of money.
Is this one? Did she write another book, or are they just?
Yep.
I was good. Yeah, as long as she keeps writing. You know what? I'm actually like 90% certain she sold the rights before she even finished those books.
This one is the story of the games that Hamish wins, because we need Hamish's backstory.
Of course we do.
I don't understand any of this. Toy Story 5 is at number 3 with 763 million. Can't knock the hustle, baby.
The problem is like that should be seen as a bit of an underperformance when it's all said and done. It's not gonna get past Michael at this point, I don't think.
I doubt it.
Project Hail Mary's at 683. Devil Wears Prada 678. Pegasus 3 656. Obsession 403. Oh, little obsession. Oh, scrappy obsession.
You know, the more ridiculous the top end of the studio system gets, the more directors are just going to look at, hey, can I get, $3 million to make a horror movie? And you're going to get some really talented examples of that over the next
if they throw, I'll make Damn You Hollywood the movie. Throw me some money. I'll have fucking, I'll have, my one black actor friend wander around fucking hallways screaming about movies. Just guy just walks past the screen yelling "fuck James Gunn." Like, it'll be great. It'll be 2 hours of that. People will love it.
Mark, if you want to pitch Damn You Hollywood the movie, I insist on being able to help you with the screenplay.
No doubt. All right.
Yours would get flags for your copious use of large language models.
Fuck you, asshole.
Hey, I don't even begrudge you doing it in the way you do it. I'm just saying you do it for that, and suddenly the mob would be at your door.
Just hire Dorian and call it a day.
No, that'll never get done. Hoppers 372, Backrooms 349, and Star Wars knocked fucking Wuthering Heights out of the top 10. Boo! At 331.
Yeah, but dude, Mandalorian and Grogu is a colossal failure.
Yeah, of course.
So are we officially doing movies that are doing worse than Mandalorian and Grogu, or are we keeping with what it was and movies that are doing worse than The Bride?
Well, I'm looking to see where things are. Supergirl is at 27.
Ow.
Between The King's Warden and Send Help. Master of the Universe is still ahead of that at 25, but underneath Mortal Kombat.
Minions and Monsters debuted in the top 20.
Yes, it did. Number 19, right behind Goot. Let's see.
For a while, we were doing Here's All the Things doing worse than Iron Lung, because Markiplier.
So The Bride has fallen to 62. Between Holcomb and Stray Kids at 24 and 23 million apiece.
I'm never going to get over The Bride costing more than Minions and Monsters. That is the funniest thing in the world to me.
Make responsible decisions, Hollywood executives. I'm in your corner. Please do better.
I'm willing to give The Bride a pass on one note, and that's probably Christian Bale's paycheck was probably a little on the high side.
I hope he enjoyed every penny of it.
It'd be funny if they paid him scale because it was like a first-time director thing.
Or he made a terrible decision to forego most of his salary and take points on the back end.
Oof. Ouch.
Again, I don't know.
Didn't we say in the review that his acting was one of the few good things in that movie, though?
You said that. I didn't agree.
Putting on the Reds.
Well, our review of Christian Bale's acting in that is he was not actually directed. So every take is him doing something as different as he possibly can from the last one, trying to find a center for the character when Maggie Gyllenhaal is just looking at him going, great, keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I need direction.
Hell, we admitted the best scene in the movie we're both betting was probably improvised by him and Jesse Buckley.
I'd assume.
Next weekend is Moana.
Which, good grief. Have you seen the tracking numbers for Moana now?
No.
They have lowered the estimation again.
I am not forcing myself on that one. You two are on your own.
Show up here, but you don't come to the Disney one? Wow.
I can only handle so much, and I cannot handle Dwayne Johnson in a bad wig.
It's tracking to bomb in ways that will make the Japanese duck and cover.
My kids and I were talking about this, remaking in live action Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, everything up through the Disney Renaissance made sense to us. remaking something live action from the last 20 years did not make sense to us. And like this Moana thing seems to have just come from a lizard brain place. And I
Here's
see
Yeah,
the
it's
last 20
called
minutes of
Dwayne
our
Johnson's
discussion.
lizard brain.
well, hang on. I think there's two things really working against Moana. But
Only two.
here's the two biggest. One, Lilo and Stitch, which I think burned a lot of people in ways that the box office didn't reflect, but we've seen kind of take hold. Two, Moana 2 came out 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no Moana 2 and you do the live action, I think it's received better. But we were just here. We were just back in Moana land. Like right over, right, you can see it in Wave. Like the original Moana is still, maybe you could argue, too close. At the same time, it's still, Moana was what, 2016?
I'll tell you what they should have done. They should have done The Princess and the Frog.
Yeah. Objectively, yes.
That could have been good. I still say they need to do Black Cauldron or
Sure.
Sword in the Stone.
But I mean, if you want to stick with like Disney princess stuff, that's recent. Don't do Rapunzel. You do The Princess and the Frog. That is screaming live action.
And you don't have to race swap any of the casting.
Yeah, really. We're gonna do Black Rapunzel. We're gonna do Black Little Mermaid. Hey, how about the Black movie? How about that one? Fuck them people.
You could actually just do that.
Sorry, I'm still convinced that this movie, that Moana, is happening because Dwayne Johnson, put a bug in Disney's ear and said,
Oh, yeah.
I want to do it. I refuse to believe that he wasn't a driving force in getting this thing made.
I'm sure he was.
People really should stop listening to Dwayne Johnson. He doesn't have good ideas. Like, he may be a successful businessman. He may have some good impulses where that's concerned, but he's not an effective creative person outside of anything dealing with his personality.
He's not somebody who knows how to lie down and say, okay, let's not make this all about me. Everything in recent years, I mean, what was that Christmas movie that Amazon did?
Red One.
Yeah, and didn't we joke about how that was supposed to go straight to Amazon Prime, and Johnson
Looks
actually,
like it.
and Johnson was like, I don't do Prime movies, I do theatrical movies. He is unable to
And
accept,
demanded to be shot in IMAX.
yeah, he is unable to accept that, maybe every
No,
project that
displayed
he's
on
involved with
IMAX,
doesn't
not
have to
shot on
make him look glorious.
Mm-hmm. Right. For the sake of time, and then after Moana is the Odyssey, and then something else would have come out the next weekend, but we're gonna do.
Oh,
Evil
did
Dead
you
Burn.
see, just briefly on the Odyssey, did you see Lupita Nyong'o just stick her foot in her mouth during the
I've heard about it, but I'm
interview
trying to stay
segments?
away from all of the Angry Boys.
Look,
all the Angry Boys are already making all their videos about Elliot Page and about Lupita Nyong'o, and I'm just I'm trying to stay out of. I'm trying to get out of the headspace I was in for Thunderbolts.
Okay, I appreciate that, and let me just. It shouldn't be this hard to not say something as stupid as what she said.
What did she say?
She was asked, if you could ask Homer, the great poet, one question, what would it be? And she said, I'd tell him to write more stories from a women's perspective. I don't know why she decided to try and one-up Rachel Zegler.
So, did anyone see Matt Damon promoting the Odyssey on Jimmy Kimmel? Because that was actually really good.
There's the fact that there's just some people attached to this movie who are bound and determined to try and shoot it in the foot is beyond me. It's going to be fine when it's all said and done. Like, I'm fairly certain of that. I'm going to be critical where I think it deserves to be criticized when I see the actual movie. But also, by the way, whoever's in charge of this, your big world tour press event, how do you have 0 appearances in Greece?
No, seriously, did you guys see Matt Damon's appearance on Jimmy Kimmel? He literally Trojan horsed his way in. It was hilarious.
No, I don't. If it doesn't show up on my TikTok, I don't watch it.
Late night television is a wasteland, and Jimmy Kimmel is.
Fuck it, Alexis. Hey guys, you like this thing? No.
I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay, I am.
I don't know why. I don't know why you try.
I don't know why I do either. You were the one who said this was a toxic relationship.
Look, I'm just saying. I would love the Odyssey to succeed. I really would. I wish there were. Again, how is it this hard to media train people to like not be stupid?
Hey, do you remember the last 30 minutes or so where I was talking about the history of DC and Warner Brothers?
Yeah, I get it. At this point, Christopher Nolan's about to buy out Warner Brothers. Like, they're gonna owe him enough money at some point.
All right, with that, that said, here's a critical.
You broke Mark.
Here's a critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty. Hibbity. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, 90% on the tomato reader, 75. I'm actually surprised it's that low on the audience one, but all critics is 90%, verified audience is 75, all audience is 71. It's pretty negligible difference.
You know, if I suppose I should say this, if it deserves to be said, if you're not super well versed in film history, some of these jokes are not going to land. Like if there may be a bit of a barrier to entry to the comedy, to elements of the comedy that needs to be acknowledged.
The Minions bring their penchant for mayhem to Hollywood history in this affectionate and charming send-up of movie-making magic, turning out the franchise's most roundly enjoyable entry yet.
Yeah, I think
and the audience says, balancing cuteness and chaos to hilarious slapstick effect. Minions and monsters prove that the more minions, the merrier. Yeah, I'm wondering if a lot of like the hoi polloi didn't get it.
Well, let's find the hoi polloi.
Well, we don't read the hoi polloi; we read the critics.
There's enough. Let's not pretend a bunch of the critics aren't the hoi polloi at this point.
It's fair. You know, I had to explain to Erica what hoi polloi was, and then after that, so really quick, I had to explain to her what hoi polloi was, and
that
then
doesn't surprise me.
It shouldn't. And then like alongside that, so I recently had a TikTok blow up. I'm actually in the creator fund now. I have finally achieved my goal. It took me a year.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you. No support from anyone.
Mark's title for that one is almost cultural appropriation, and I feel like that's kind of what
So
it's critical appropriation.
I did this thing about the Watchmen. It's at 112,000 views, like zillions of comments and likes. Yeah, I did really well with it.
Side note, when are we going to get the Watchmen TV series on Spotify?
The fuck you talking about?
When we review the Watchmen TV series for TV Party Tonight, I tried searching for it on Spotify. It's not on there.
Should be. So I'll talk to you about it after. So anyway, so then I have all these new followers now. So like, you know, I have like 15,000 followers, all this other stuff. Like my TikTok is finally starting to really see some growth. And Erica happened to look at like all of these new followers that I have, and she's like, "Are you going to follow all of them back?" And I'm like, "No." And she goes, "Why?" And I say, "Because you don't go to the hoi polloi. You don't lower yourself to the people following you. You have to stand above them. You have to be above them so they come to you. You have scarcity creates value. I start following all these people. I become just like them. I'm not valuable anymore." She's like, "You are a fucking snob is what you are." And I said, "Yes, but also what I just said." So I just thought that was funny.
It's worth pointing out a decent amount of those followers actually probably don't actually make their own content. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying
Fucking
everyone.
Jesse, what the fuck is hoi polloi? That isn't even how you spell it, pal. That's not how you spell hoi polloi. What is that? What are you, comic book
It's
characters?
misspelled.
How do you spell it? Actually, I'm curious.
It's Hoipoloi, hoi polloi.
Oh, so it's like a Hawaiian spelling. I get it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Feel free to Google it if you want to know what it is.
Ranking member of the hoi polloi, Kevin Marr of the Times UK.
About to have his job outsourced.
We get a host of monsters conjured from a spell book and a Klaatu-like alien invader straight out of The Day the Earth Stood Still. But villain parodies are what the series does in its sleep.
Notice that he doesn't use the correct usage of the word Klaatu.
He's also just whining that the movies are doing what they're trying to do and not. He desperately wants to find broken down old minions on an island drinking blue titty milk.
Rick Bentley of KGE-TV, Bakersfield. The film is loaded with recognizable names as the voice talents, but none gives the film any special audio zip.
This is a guy whose appreciation of animated projects never matured beyond, hey, Robin Williams is the genie.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, holy!
How did you let this happen, Robert?
I'm not in charge of Jeff.
How did you put Jeff back on a leash? Is what you're going to do. Jeffrey Harris of 401media.com.
Former friend of the show.
Really? Unfortunately, this is what severed it. Unfortunately,
Between giving a perfect score to Toy Story 5 and this, yeah.
Unfortunately, the multitude of disparate subplots and characters drags down the more emotional, compelling story of James being the artistic black sheep and his tribe who wants to create a cinematic masterpiece. We watched the same movie.
Yeah, no.
He really freaking hated Dort.
Well, there's some of that. There's also, I think Jeff is at the phase of his criticism where he wants to see all the special things be special. I'm convinced it's why he loved Toy Story 5 so much was, oh, Bonnie got her happy ending. Which, again, as previously stated, I don't care if Bonnie lives or dies.
Speaking of not caring if he lives or dies, Josh Bell of The Inlander, Spokane, Washington. The minions remain uniquely annoying, but Coffin's good-natured affection for vintage Hollywood shines through in this movie's best moments.
Yeah, you have to be a special kind of dead inside to think the minions are just annoying.
Again, probably someone who just sees them as how much they're merchandised and immediately decides, you know what, I hate them because they're sellouts.
Even Amy Nicholson got it right.
Amy Nicholson of the Los Angeles Times. I'll admit, I snorted the first time I saw a TikTok of teens gussied up in suits to see a Minions movie. But after watching Minions and Monsters make nods to Metropolis and Casablanca, I understand.
Yeah, this movie really does speak to the critical class of people.
Mark Djuskic of Mark Reviews Movies. Two separate plots interrupt and overtake this movie-inspired merriment. Oof.
No, they don't.
Does he not understand how subplots work? Did The Empire Strikes Back confuse him?
Probably.
Hey, where's everyone going? You're supposed to stay together. Frank Swiatek of One Guy's Opinion starts out with a clever first act that will appeal especially to movie buffs before getting bogged down in familiar anarchic action and some rather dull new characters.
Who's dull?
He's talking about Dort.
Uh,
The spin-off franchise is still the work of talented filmmakers trying to distract us from realizing that we're just watching a mercenary exercise in corporate brand extension.
yeah, see, you are too irony poisoned to see this as what it actually is.
The living embodiment of Smack My Bitch Up, Carla Hay.
Sweet Jesus, Mark.
Hey, at least you didn't attach me to her this time.
The former ex-Mrs. Robert Winfrey.
You just had to tempt him.
Carla Hay of Culture Mix. This messy, annoying, and sexist. Oh, goodness. Heavens to Betsy.
Oh, no, wait, we poke fun at the suffragettes briefly. Like, so does Mary Poppins. Get over yourself.
I was going to say, poked fun? That wasn't poking. It was acknowledging that this takes place during the suffragette
Again,
movement.
there's slight poking of... To anyone this sensitive, The slightest of poking of fun becomes horribly sexist.
Animated sequel sidelines or makes villains out of female characters and has very underdeveloped new characters. The chase fight scenes are sloppy and predictable. The chief
Wait,
monster
hold
villains
on.
arrive too late in the
Makes
story.
villains out of female characters? Who?
I'm sorry. Are we supposed to be furious that the blob monster is named Irene?
I'm guessing, yes. And women in the culture, hey, you should talk to her about this, Robert. In the culture, hey, Carla Hay world, women are never supposed to be bad guys.
I'm not allowed to communicate except via my lawyer, but
Mark Kennedy of the Associated Press. Minions and Monsters is about the sheer greatness of movie making, and it's a navel-gazing misfire.
yeah, see, no.
Few industries, maybe journalism, sure, is as enamored at making its profession seem heroic.
Okay,
Wow.
I appreciate the shot at journalism. It's very true. Babylon was overly navel-gazing. This is a genuine celebration of the art. Like, they're not the same thing.
There is a certain type of critic out there, and I can see where people think this is us, but like, again, then there's this show or Project Hail Mary. But there's definitely a certain critic out there that is very agitated by the idea that there might be like frivolity and whimsy in the world.
That's true.
And that's it.
And that's all. All right, that is our review of Minions and Monsters. This week, Thursday.
And our critique of Warner Brothers as a studio.
Yes. This Thursday, myself and Jesse are getting together to watch K Street, which is only available on YouTube right now. It's been a while since I've watched it. Like when I first watched it when it debuted on, I think I watched it when I moved to Miami, and so that was 2005. I don't remember how far into the show I made it, but now that I've watched it in its entirety and I've binged it, I have thoughts. This was an interesting. Do you like your Steven Soderbergh there, Alexis? You like your sex lies and your videotapes? Huh? You like your Ocean's 11s? Huh?
Sit down, Mark.
I asked you a question, dummy. Do you like Steven Soderbergh movies?
I liked Ocean's 11 and I liked Ocean's 13. Ocean's 12. I'm sorry. I will never forgive it for that stupid Julia Roberts plot thing. That was. I don't know what that was.
Okay.
It was too stupid to be meta.
So outside of the Ocean's movies, you're not real familiar with Steven Soderbergh.
I've watched a couple of them. I watched most of Magic Mike, and I remember thinking to myself, okay, so the scenes in the strip club are like really well shot and really well done. And then the scenes where it's just Channing Tatum and the other guys talking is still focused, just like, wide shots with barely any focus on the characters. I'm like, so did they just get two separate directors because Sonberg didn't want to film the
Soderbergh likes to make everything look like a documentary.
Yeah.
So
We'll never forgive him for continuing to employ Zazie Beetz.
You still haven't seen They Will Kill You, have they? Or have you?
No, but he's talking about when we reviewed Kimmy a few years ago when we were looking for things to review. That was fun. Anyway,
terrible movie.
Steven Soderbergh did this experiment called K Street that I'm going to subject Jesse to, so that'll be a fun time.
Poor Jesse.
This Sunday is the Metal Hammer of Doom. We're looking at Tarja, Frison Noir, and then we're back next week for Moana. It's just for me and Robert. And then a week from tonight,
You're welcome.
it'll be myself, Alexis, Andrew, and David, presumably. We'll see who actually shows up. And we'll be looking at The Bear Season 5. Oh, The Bear. Goodbye, Bear. Sad Bear.
It burned the risotto one too many times.
It certainly did, Ollie. It's the crushing weight of the the ticking clock finally got to it. Alexis, go
As
ahead
it will all of us eventually.
Go ahead and do your plugs.
All right. In addition to doing The Bear, we've got a couple shows that we're working on getting on the schedule, including House of the Dragon, which is in the middle of its third season. Just last week, Jesse Sarcher came on to review The Amazing Digital Circus with me. Sean Comer was supposed to join us. He got sick and had a bout, so it was just the two of us, which ended into a very interesting discussion about the powers of an AI overlord and dealing with your own trauma. So very deep discussions
Sounds
all
like a
around.
fun time with Sad by
Influenced in no small part, I assume, by Jesse's frustrations with Suno in the last episode of Sessions.
Yeah. Well,
You actually didn't talk about that. We did have to. It killed me though. We did have to delay the show 45 minutes because Jesse was literally watching all of it that day, and he didn't realize the final episode was an hour long. So I like getting close to 8. I'm like, "Are you? It's like, are you ready to go?" He goes, "No, I'm still watching it." So, but yeah, go ahead and go check that out. And as far as the plugs that pay me, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We're in the middle getting ready for our big convention run here in August. That's going to be Comic-Con Nebraska in Omaha. KC Crypticon here in Kansas City. That's our local horror convention. And Colorado Springs Comic-Con. I never miss that. Of course, our stuff is still up on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. And hey, if you are in Columbia, Missouri, head on over to Hexagon Alley. We're going to be sent. We have a deal with them. They are one of our wholesale clients, and we are sending them a huge order of new stuff. Going to be coming in here before too long, including big batches of Clue and Monopoly jewelry. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
all right, Robert, do your thing.
You can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. WWE SmackDown on Fridays. This last SmackDown was not very good, but that's what happens when you have to tape it after an episode of Raw and you don't have enough material. So hopefully this week we get back to normal, which is to say maybe something watchable would be nice. Looking squarely at you, WWE. Help me here. I want to be nicer to your product. You don't make it easy. Saturday will be UFC 329. This is the return of Conor McGregor. He is having a rematch with Max Holloway. And it's still about 50-50 if he actually makes it to the cage, because that's where we are.
I'm taking my kids to go. Jonas wanted to do Medieval Times once this summer before he goes back to school. So I decided to do it Saturday, and then I didn't realize until after I'd done it that that the Conor McGregor fight was also Saturday. So thankfully I picked the 5:00 show. So I should get home just the main card. Main card's going to start at like 10, right?
Double check, but you should be able to find that information out.
You okay?
No, the main card won't start at 10. The main card's like
the
main card's like hang on, the main card's like 5 fights long.
Yeah, but didn't like the old pay-per-views used to start at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard?
Hang on. Main card will start at 9.
Oh, how so?
So if you want a full preview, you can check out the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast over on the 411 Wrestling and Entertainment YouTube page. That's where I do that. We have a full preview of that card. Tune in for any and all of that. And then I will be covering it Saturday. And yeah, back here next week for Moana, where we will try to reassure you that the Rock with the bad wig isn't real and can't hurt you.
Good luck with that.
Mark, you and I it was so nice to have a movie we could just be positive about today, because next week, sandwiched between a couple of good old-fashioned, what's the phrase you like to use? That's just I can't remember. You use so many.
I was gonna say, like, what do you want?
You got to narrow it down. He's got a whole freaking encyclopedia.
We're gonna put it on our shit kickers and kick some shit. That's what we're gonna do.
There we go. Sandwiched between two instances of that, we had this little gem. So we're all very grateful for that, just as we are grateful for you tuning in and listening to us ramble live after the fact, whenever, it doesn't matter. We're very grateful for you also. Thank you very much.
All right. For Robert Winfrey, for Alexis Hana, This has been our review of Minions and Movies. Minions and Movies.
There's another title.
That's what it should have been called. Minions and Movies. Be well, be safe, and behave.